All right. It is Friday once again. Hello, everyone. Halfway through the month. Don't know where it went, but here we are, mid September.
Crazy.
I know, right? Where does it go? We are almost into fall officially. We're almost there. Another week. We can say it's official, although the weather does not say it's official. But anyway, so how's your week going, everyone?
Going well. I know Chris had an exciting week, and we're excited he's here to talk about his week and what he's learned. It's been a busy week, though, I feel. I think, Becky, you and I were talking about that. Must have quarter. I can't believe we're already talking about Q4. So, yeah, it's been busy. I'm glad it's Friday.
Yeah, it always seems
Yeah,
like the week is busier after a short week, then the next week is always like
That's true.
even more busy and everything. And by the way, everyone, this is our colleague Chris Tate. He's part of our MSP team, and he's going to be talking today about DattoCon, which was earlier this week. And we've got some fun things to talk about. Oh, Jeff has the new iPhone 14 Pro. I was going to talk a little bit about that during the news section. I guess the 14s are going to start arriving today for people who pre-ordered them, and I think a few select stores are going to have them in stock for people to go pick them up. So fun if you got
Tom,
one.
Tom would be proud.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So Tom couldn't make it today. He's otherwise occupied, but we talked about all things Apple last week. So if you missed that, you can go back and check the recording. But yeah, maybe I'll go by the Apple store this weekend and kind of play around with the new phone or something. I still have a 12, but it's fine. It's okay. It's perfectly fine. I like it. no need to no need to upgrade yet. I say that and probably, sometime around Christmas I'll have a purple one, you know, just for fun. So Chris, how was your week?
yeah, it's been pretty good. You know what it's like when you're traveling, right? It feels like there isn't any week, even though DattoCon was effectively Monday, Tuesday. It began on Sunday with boot camps and free sessions and everything. So Monday, Tuesday. Well, I travelled on Friday, so that was the weekend gone, and then so I didn't get much work done last Friday. Then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday was DattoCon, then a day travelling back. So it feels like this week has only really been today. Which is not great. And I'm away next week on holiday for the week, so this is kind of my one and only day until a week on Monday. But it's been good. I mean, DattoCon was a great experience that yeah we can talk about. But yeah, it's all good. And but the weather here, I'm in the UK, and the weather here has definitely changed since I went away. It feels very autumnal now. So yeah, I think autumn's definitely on its way here.
Jealous. It's still pretty brutally hot down here in South Carolina.
We've had
Yeah,
a
it was
few
pretty.
days of cooling down a little bit, but that's always what we call false fall. We'll have
Same here.
a few mornings. It's been in the
Yep.
50s in the morning, and then it heats right back up in the middle of the day. So we get to enjoy the cool mornings, and then next week it's going to be brutal again.
It's that
so
time of year
Well,
when you have no idea what to wear because it's a little bit cool in the morning, you get all excited, and then, yeah, by the afternoon, it's, back in the high 80s or in the 90s. So
yeah, well,
fun.
DC. Yeah, I mean, DC last week, this week, sorry, was. I mean, for an Englishman, it was too hot, right? And it was.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was. I mean, the heat wasn't too bad, but it was so humid. I mean, I just don't. The humidity was crazy. Well, it's to me, it was crazy. So it was. Yeah. Then obviously you've got the contrast. You've got hotels and conference in a conference center in DC. They kind of got the aircon set to the absolute maximum or minimum, depending which way you look at it. So inside it's freezing, and outside it's sort of super hot. And it's when you move between one and the other you notice it. So
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So apart from that, it was all good.
definitely, you're inside and you're freezing, and then you walk outside and you're like, oh, whoa, that air that
It's
you
like
can taste
wet.
it because it's so
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
so thick.
Oh, God. Yeah, you're preaching to the choir of us in the South here.
Yeah, definitely. It's like all of a sudden you walk out and you're soaked in minutes because of all the humidity. So, for those of you who haven't really been to the South too much, it's quite an experience. You're sweating in no
I
time.
think we're doing a great job selling it.
Yeah, come visit. It's a joy. Nothing like it. So today's agenda, the usual topics, community and meetups, and a little bit of product news. We've had a couple of news releases this week. If you haven't seen or heard, you haven't been paying attention. And then we will jump into DattoCon review and talk a little bit about what went on there. Apparently, the team had a really great conference. And then IT news. There's a lot going on right now. So we might have a chance to spend some time talking about that. And we will jump right in it. So let me pull up the document we have here. Now, in community, I've had a few things going on. Our product team has been great about putting some various product news in there. So we're super happy that the team has been jumping in. And Derek put in a quick note about the new Jumpcloud reports. There are some users to SSO applications reports available, and you can go read all about that. A couple of users have some questions that you might want to go check out and see if you can help them. So Nilesh has a question about giving admin access to end users in order to push updates. And I think maybe a few of y'all might be able to help with an answer. So if you can, please go check that one out. I will have the links to these in the show notes so you can go find those and see if you can help. But they're also in the feed, so you should be able to find them fairly easily. And Angel is asking about custom profiles in Netscope. I'm asking internally about this, but if any of you have ever done custom profiles in Netscope, please hop on over and give your take on that if you don't mind, because I think they need some help in tweaking that a little bit. Alexa, what's new in Meetups?
Yeah. So want to start by giving the DC group a shout out because I know we hosted a meetup around DattoCon, which worked out really well. Tom hosted, so shout out Tom. They had a great turnout. I think about 10 or 12 people showed up, which is awesome. I know Dennis already commented, but we missed you, Dennis. We'll catch you at the next. Everyone's excited to. Oh, did I cut out?
Yeah, when you were talking about Dennis.
Oh no. I was just saying we missed Dennis at this one, but we'll catch him at the next one. I think there's some momentum around in-person events, so we'll definitely keep that going for the DC group. I wanted to tease, we are going to be planning an in-person event for our Tel Aviv group here coming up. So if you're joining us from Tel Aviv, stay tuned for updates there. I think after the success of the Singapore meetup, we're excited to continue our EMEA and APAC, momentum. So stay tuned for updates. I think we're going to try to plan that around. There's a Google Cloud conference happening in November. So stay tuned there. And then something that I haven't done in a while that I thought could be good, if you're joining us for the first time or you just haven't heard about kind of what the Meetups program is all about. I know I just kind of talk about what's happening, but I figured I'd give just a little bit of an overview. So the Meetups, they do fall under the community program here at Jumpcloud. And what that means is it is really a network, for IT admins by IT admins. Jumpcloud sponsors all these events, but the goal is really to have peer-to-peer networking, again, for IT admins by IT admins. We want you to build the tech community in your area, and it's really just an opportunity to connect with your peers and learn from each other. It's kind of an extension of the forums online. We want that to be happening in person, face to face, so you guys can really, build community in your area. And of course, have some fun along the way, especially as the world opens back up. It's been really exciting to see more and more in-person events. And I think that just really enhances the connection and yeah. I'm trying to say, I jotted a few notes down. I just want to make sure I covered everything.
Oh, Chandra's asking about India, and
yes,
we're trying.
Yes, we are trying. We are pursuing that because I know a lot of our executives recently visited India. We had a lot of great meetings, and so that is something we're pursuing. Stay tuned for that. We're trying to decide, Chandra, maybe what area are you in? Because we're trying to nail down where we would, yep, you beat me to it, Becky, where we would set that up. So let us know where you are. And that said, if you have a group of people in your area who want to get together, if you have a tech community you're a part of, please let us know. Because we are always looking for new places to set up these meetup groups, so we can give you guys the opportunity to grow your networks, learn, share insights, and all that. Chandra, thank you. That is super helpful. And we will jot that down. So as always, here is the link to our network. Make sure you're a part of it, because that is where we launch all the events and make all our announcements. We send out emails. So yeah, I think that is it for me. Yes, Kelly, Portland, definitely on our radar as well. And even if the city is not part of our network already, if Kelly, if you get some people in Portland who want to get together, let us know. We are happy to kind of sponsor that, because we really just want this to be for you. So
Yeah, I hear they had such a great time in DC and Chicago, and we had a really small one here in Raleigh, but hoping to do more of those. And so it really is just about getting together and shooting the breeze and talking about IT topics and non-IT topics too. It's really just about
yeah,
making connections between IT folks and MSPs and getting together and getting to know people who are in the field. It really it's that simple. And sometimes we just crave being able to talk to people who know what we do for a living and not feeling like we have to explain, well, I do this and I do that. You can just talk about work and
it's people who speak your language.
exactly. That's exactly it. Let's talk tech and they get it. So, many years ago when I worked at UC San Diego, we bonded over beers at the pub on campus, and it was just nice to sit and talk to people who knew what was going on. So that's always welcome, and it doesn't have to be alcoholic beverages. It can be any drinks. Water, tea, coffee,
Food,
and
pizza.
food. Yeah. So, yeah, all good there.
Yeah, well, just on that subject, only briefly, but I did jump into the meetup in DC last on Tuesday. I've lost track of the days. I think it was Tuesday, and it was exactly as you described. Right, we were chatting. I got to speak to several people, and we had some conversations around IT, but probably more conversations around non-IT, but just sort of speaking about the food and the beer and the town and everything. So it was a great place to meet up and sort of chat to people. And we touched upon things that were kind of related to what we're doing, but not directly. So we're talking a little bit about social media and what people should be doing on, if anything, on LinkedIn and things to raise profiles and maybe use it for recruitment tools. So yeah, it was a really, I wish I could have stayed longer, but it was a really interesting session. I arrived actually towards the end, but yeah, Tom was there with a good number of individuals, and it was a really good session. So, I mean, I'll certainly try and get to another one if there's one that I can get to, definitely.
That's awesome. We love to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. We are going to jump over quickly to product news. So we've had a couple of news releases come out. Like I said, you may have seen us shouting from the rooftops about a couple of things going on here. One of them is Password Manager, and I'm not going to talk too long about that because next Friday, Tom is going to host Antoine, and they are going to talk more about Password Manager, do a demo, and go more in depth about it. But we are super excited to introduce this into the product and have a place where you can manage passwords securely. We are now using it internally, and we're very excited about it. It's awesome so far. I've moved all of my passwords into it, and it is working seamlessly in my browser. It's great. I haven't been using it, but a couple of days because we just released it to everyone internally, but I'm loving it. But we will go into it more in depth. Antoine will talk about it and do a demo and answer questions. And we've had it in early access for a little while, but it is now out in the wild. So if you do have questions, go ahead and talk to your account managers first, and then go from there if you're interested in knowing more about it or doing a trial. Alexa,
Also,
thank you.
yes, just dropped the link to the press release that went out earlier this week. So take a look and learn more about it.
Thanks for that feature request, Jeff. Jedi mind trick wave to authenticate into password manager. Very cool. I have it on my Mac, and what I love is I can either use a pin or I can just use the fingerprint. So I like that I don't have to do anything major to do it. I don't have to type in a complicated password. I can use my fingerprint if I want to, which makes it super easy for me to do it that way. So tune in next week for that. We will be giving more information about that. The other thing
just quickly, because I see a
Yes.
few questions coming in from Dennis and Sam.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to jot those down. I don't know if we know the answers to those, but I will make sure that.
There's a Chrome integration, I know for sure, and I believe you can install it on your phone too. So there should be some ways to integrate, but I'm not sure about how it would work between the systems. I'm assuming that if you sign in, it'll pull in your information, but we will get those questions and pull them for Antoine so he can make sure to address those next week.
I mean, I can answer that at a very high level, if you like now, very, very quickly. But I don't want to steal Antoine's thunder. But it's such a cool feature, and it's such an amazing product. I've been using it for a little while. But the way it does that is it's syncing the passwords peer to peer between your own devices, so they don't exist in the cloud anywhere. They would exist if you've got a laptop and a phone and an iPad, for example. Then your passwords will exist on all of those. So and they synchronize in the background. So it appears as though it's running in the cloud. You've got access to them everywhere, but they're only on your devices, which is really cool. So I would certainly recommend taking a look at it, because it's sort of super secure the way it does it, and it's seamless in that, as Becky mentioned, if you've got the Chrome extension installed and you set a password up there, it will synchronize immediately, exist onto the other devices, which is really cool.
Yeah. So you would have to import them on a different device if you had two devices. Like if you had two different computers that you had to sign in on, you would have to import it on that second device.
No, it would do. It does it automatically. So basically,
you
pair the new device to the account, and then it would synchronize them straight there. And with regard to the question, what if all passwords were lost and stolen or broken? Then you can back them up, and they can be backed up encrypted, and then have to be restored with the keys. So you can run backups on them. And shared passwords will be backed up by the administrators as well. So it's a very unlikely scenario that everywhere where the passwords exist will be destroyed or lost or stolen. But yeah, I mean, as with everything, as we know, there's backups kind of a necessity. So you can back them up, but then you can only restore those back into the correct account with the correct encryption. So if someone gets hold of a backup file, they're no use to anyone except yourself.
And you can store passwords, you can store credit cards, you can store secure notes. There are several different options that you have in there, which is great. I know we share a payment card sometimes when we're subscribing to certain services, so it's handy to be able to do that. Pam, belts and suspenders.
Yeah, and sharing's an important thing there, right? You can share the passwords and the 2FAs and the secure notes and the payment cards between the people there. And the locations of the backups can be stored kind of wherever to a local location, but you could point those to a network location or something if you wanted to. I guess we're getting ahead of ourselves. I'm stealing all of Antoine's thunder, because this is, I'm sure he's going to love to talk about this next Friday.
Yeah. We will. We are Alexa's tracking these questions, and we will pass these on to Antoine to make sure that he answers them in detail next week, because he's the He's the one that is heading up this product launch. He was, one of the original Mikey peeps, and he will be able to tell you all about it. In fact, he's really excited to talk about this and share everything. He was also at DattoCon, so I'm sure he gave some demos and talked a lot about it there. But we're really excited to have him. Unfortunately, I won't be here and Alexa won't be here, and I'm kind of sad that I won't get to. I was really looking forward to it, but we all know how awesome Tom is, and he's going to do a great job of going through and doing the talk with Antoine. So please tune in. You'll be able to ask all the questions you want. Take the full hour if you need to. It's going to be great. And we're really excited about this release. It's going to be fantastic. And the next piece we're going to talk about is actually Jumpcloud for MSPs. And it's perfect having Chris here today to get to talk about that, because I've asked him to just give a brief, we're not going to go into a lot of detail unless people have a ton of questions, but really just kind of a brief overview. Chris, what is Jumpcloud for MSPs? And why don't you tell us a little bit about what we are doing there?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess a good place to start would be why we're doing it. That's the way I try and explain it, because everyone on this session today hopefully knows the value of Jumpcloud, in that they know what it does with regards to identity access management for getting clients sort of access to devices or applications or servers or resources or whatever in the most seamless and secure way. We kind of understand that, and I know a lot of you people are probably sort of end user IT managers, directors and things, so you know the value of this. One of the challenges we have is that MSPs, or managed service providers, are generally looking after multiple accounts. So they're not just looking after one IT infrastructure, they're probably looking after the IT infrastructure of 10 or 20, 30 different small businesses. So what Jumpcloud for MSPs was at its heart is a way of trying to get the Jumpcloud experience, but to kind of deliver it in a multi-tenanted method to allow these MSPs to get these products, which we know are kind of great products, the single sign-on, the multi-factor, everything else, into the hands of these small to medium businesses through their IT service provider or MSP. And so it comprises several components. The bulk of it are kind of, you already know. So it's the identity management, the device management, the patch management, all of the functionality that you know within the existing product. Plus it does include the password manager, which I know we were chatting last week at DattoCon about quite a lot. But it also, what kind of makes it different is it's integrated as kind of one price point for MSPs, which includes all of the functionality. But the main difference is that we also integrate with MSP tools. Now, we've been mentioning DattoCon quite a lot. Datto produce a sort of piece of professional service automation software, or PSA software, called Autotask PSA. And MSPs generally live in this kind of software to get their day-to-day done. So what we've introduced recently with Jumpcloud for MSPs are direct integrations from the product into Autotask PSA and the ConnectWise alternative, which is ConnectWise Manage, and we've got a whole bunch more on the roadmap, which means that if an alert is generated within Jumpcloud, it will generate a support ticket directly into the PSA, so that the MSP techs can sort of sit within the PSA and work. We've also got billing integrations built into the PSA, which is really cool. So what can happen there is, because the MSP is reselling Jumpcloud to their clients, and it's a consumption-based license, any fluctuations in the license count will automatically be reflected on the bill that goes out to the MSP through the integration with the Autotask PSA. So again, everything we're trying to do with Jumpcloud for MSPs is to save the MSPs time, and obviously that in turn enables them to make more money. So it's all been designed really to consolidate the existing products we have, but with a kind of an extra layer of MSP functionality on the top.
Just double checking chat here to see if there were any questions. They're still, save the MSP's time. Thank you, Jeff says. Love it.
And,
awesome.
and that's really good to know, because that's exactly what we're working on. Obviously, things like the remote assist capability, attended remote assist currently is a great way of saving MSP time, as will patching bill, patching be useful for saving time, but we think that billing and the ticketing integrations are going to be real wins, and we're really excited. I've spoken to Becky before about maybe sort of polling interest on the community about which other integrations we can do. We've probably got a list of 5 or 6 currently. ConnectWise, Manage, and Autotest PSA are probably the single two. Easily the 2 largest PSAs by market share, but there are others. So we're kind of looking to build integrations into many more as well. And any other integration points that anyone can think of, that we think would help MSPs save even more time, let us know. We're definitely up for doing that.
Absolutely. We do have some plans to definitely get some more feedback on the community around some of those things. So Chris and Rob and I have some definite plans there. So stay tuned as we try to do more for MSPs in the community, because we really do want to integrate the 2 audiences, but also have some very MSP specific content going forward. So
this is a point that thanks for that comment, Jeff. It is exactly what we're trying to do. We talk internally about sort of the number of different tools MSPs need to use, and number of different vendors you have to deal with, and all of this kind of stuff. And I'm from an MSP background. In fact, all I do is pretty much MSP, and I know that if you could probably you're buying a patch management solution here, a password management solution here, a remote control solution here. What we're trying to do is to take all of those, as many of those here's as we can, and build them directly into the Jumpcloud platform. So you've kind of got one contact, one invoice from us to get as many of the different tools that you need directly with it for your MSP. So we're trying to reduce the kind of tool sprawl or tool spread or whatever we're calling it to, and then once we've got them in one platform, obviously we can integrate much better. So we think that it's going to be great for MSPs. And onto, a little on the conversations we had at DattoCon last week, I think that MSPs are agreeing. I think, we've got a lot of functionality that they may already have in different tools, but we're doing it in a more consolidated way. And I think that certainly ticks a lot of boxes for MSPs.
I love that Jeff says billing and ticketing and patching and password management. OMG, I'm going to tell my VP about this. And Kelly says that she'd like to attend webinars about integrations like this. So Kelly, we could definitely either suggest a webinar or feature this on the IT hour, because really the IT hour is about being able to do deep dives and answer questions on the fly. So we could absolutely plan something on a different time where we go more deeply into these. This is the perfect venue for that. So we can talk offline about what you're interested in. Capital letters, where do I sign? And we can figure out what we're missing, what we haven't shown yet, and let's do it. Let's plan something, Chris. Let's look at
absolutely.
what we haven't shown, and and Jeff
on the
too.
webinar front, we absolutely do. But obviously, if we do a webinar, for example, with Autotest, we'll probably do a webinar with Datto talking about the integration. But with the best will in the world, and I'm saying this as someone that's probably going to be delivering the webinar, it's probably more of a sales-focused pitch thing, really, right? Which I guess that what we're probably able to do on this platform is to probably go into more of the actual detail around the integration, more so than the webinar. But we'll do both, absolutely. So if you're looking for the kind of fluffy stuff at the top, then that's where we'll do the webinars with the other vendors. But I guess this is a great platform to go into more detail.
This is where we would do. Let's talk about the integrations. Let's deep dive into them. Let's demo them. Let's take questions. Let's really talk about what it is you're wanting to see, and we can take suggestions. So Jeff, Kelly, reach out on Slack and tell me exactly what it is you're wanting to see, or what you're missing, that and others too. I'm not just saying them, but any of y'all, just reach out in the Slack lounge or email community@jumpcloud.com. Let us know what you want to see demo wise and you want us to deep dive into, and we will plan that for a future IT hour, because that's exactly what this is for. So, let's see. Since you're hearing about Datto, are we also integrating with Kaseya One platform?
We've kind of in early days been speaking with Kaseya about this. We, at the minute, obviously, and as Keith pointed out there, the waters have been muddied slightly by Kaseya acquiring Datto, which means that Kaseya now own Autotask PSA. And they also own Kaseya BMS, which is another PSA. We were working on an integration with BMS, which isn't complete yet, but we're speaking with Kaseya to see what is going to be the best way of integrating with their products, because what they're quite keen to do, understandably, is to work with their central integration platform that can integrate to all of their multiple different tools. So we're in conversations with Kaseya about that, Keith, and hopefully we'll have some news soon. But we've got a great relationship with Kaseya and the legacy Datto teams as well. So hopefully we can get that sorted soon.
Awesome.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's good to hear about. If you, so sorry, Keith, just saying that he uses BMS. Yeah, I mean, interestingly, I was at BMS was mentioned briefly at DattoCon last week because there was a little bit of concern around what are Kaseya going to do with the overlapping tools? Because obviously, sorry, it's maybe not obvious to people outside the community, but Autotask PSA is significantly bigger product than Kaseya BMS, and there was a rumor that BMS may be discontinued or force people onto Autotask. And the messaging that came out from the CEO of Kaseya, Fred Vicola, last week, was that definitely isn't the case. All of the products that are currently there, even the overlapping products, are going to continue. So, which is obviously really good news for BMS users as well. So wherever there's, I think Fred was sort of pretty adamant about that. I think that's one of the things that he wanted to tell the community, that these products are going to stay separate and continue to be developed.
That's awesome. Well, I think with that, we can just go ahead and jump right into more of, I mean, we've already been talking about DattoCon, so let's just continue right into what went on earlier this week. So, Chris, now we've kind of skirted around a little bit, but let's talk a little bit more about what is DattoCon, what's the history of it, and I mentioned earlier, I think in the green room before we came on, about whether or not it's going to continue since Kaseya acquired them and things like that, and kind of give a little bit of a brief background, and then just hop right into some of your takeaways that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. This was I think it was the 10th year of DattoCon, and the first one was also in DC, and we're back in Washington DC this week. Basically, it started life as Datto's user conference, I guess. In fact, I think it used to be called DPC, Datto Partner Conference, but it merged into DattoCon over time. And it was effectively, it's a get together for all the partners to learn about new features, new functions that are coming along, and this kind of thing. But obviously, over the years, this has changed. Datto merged with Autotask, which kind of meant that the Autotask Community Live event was rolled into DattoCon. And then Datto were themselves acquired by Kaseya. So the point that was made around the ongoing events, we can probably answer that quite quickly, because one of the things that they were quite keen to point out is that DattoCon will continue, at least in 2023. There's going to be a DattoCon in Miami, Florida, and also a DattoCon in EMEA in 2023. So there will still be 2 DattoCon events at least next year. This is probably in addition to the Kaseya events, which are the Connect IT global and local events that they run. So DattoCon is really a partner-led event. It's changed a little over the years, and obviously it seems to get larger and larger, but it's moved a little more from being totally product-driven to being a little more educational as well. So MSPs go into peer groups, learn from other MSPs, learning about product, and also training, which is why it starts on the Sunday now. On the Sunday, there's kind of a training day where people can run boot camps and all kinds of different things to get up to speed with the product. So I'm really pleased that DattoCon will continue next year. It's always been my favorite event in the channel. So that was kind of really pleased to hear it when they said that was happening. To go to some of the key things that were mentioned, I don't know, people in the channel will know this, is that when Kaseya acquired Datto, there was a little bit of apprehension, I guess, in the channel and how the two companies would merge together, because they're kind of different companies with different feelings and different sets of products. So from a product point of view, the CEO, Fred Vicola, was quite clear that the overlapping products aren't going to disappear. So, for example, Datto RMM competes with Kaseya VSA, and there are no plans to get rid of Datto RMM in favor of VSA or vice versa. Both products are going to continue, and I think that was really useful for people. Another thing that they wanted to get across and were quite keen on sort of stressing is that they're expanding their engineering teams, and they've showed numbers how they're going to do this. Whereas again, I think there's a little bit of a fear that the consolidated company would reduce engineering maybe, but they certainly don't see that being the way. And they're also expanding the partner program. Datto had a great global partner program, which is now the Kaseya Global Partner Program, which is a great way of getting kind of resources into MSPs' hands to help them position and sell Datto products to their customers. So things like the Marketing Development Fund pot that they had to sort of give funds to MSPs to help with maybe running local events or email campaigns or billboards or whatever they want to do. Kaseya has said that they'll expand that, so more money is now available for Datto partners going forward. Another thing that they mentioned were price cuts. They seem pretty convinced that they can, using the economies of scale, reduce the cost of the products that are produced by Kaseya and Datto to their customers. So again, that was something that they were quite keen to stress. And the other thing, which was mentioned by Keith, is around the integration. Kaseya are very, very big on integrations now. They kind of put them into two tiers. There's the API integrations, which are between different vendors' products. That's where we kind of operate currently, in that we've got a product which talks to Kaseya products via an API. But they're also working very hard to try and integrate their own products at a kind of application level. So you'll see much tighter integrations between, for example, Datto, Cirrus, BCDR devices and Kaseya devices. So integration's a really big thing. And, reading the room, if we're sort of speaking candidly, I think that a lot of MSPs went in there thinking, we're used to Austin McCord, who was the founder of Datto. He's a very technical guy. And Fred Vicola I kind of call him a grown-up CEO. Because imagine if I asked you to draw a picture of a CEO, you'd probably draw something pretty similar to Fred. So he's kind of that kind of guy. And that's quite a big contrast between the old Datto. But he came out and I think he said all the right things. And every MSP I spoke to afterwards seemed really, really impressed. And I guess, talk is cheap, right? So I guess we've got to see how it actually transpires. But Kaseya has spent an awful lot of money. I don't know how much it was exactly, but they spent several $1 billion on acquiring Datto. And so they've got to make it work one way or the other. So I was trying to, when I speak to partners, MSPs, I say, well, give them time. Let's see what happens. And there were 2,600 or so MSPs in the room, and they all the majority seemed pretty happy with the way it transpired. So I think it's going to be good. They did announce a couple of new products. Datto Managed SOC, which is based on a Rocket Cyber product that Kaseya acquired, is now available to Datto partners. There's definitely a feeling that some of these other outsourced sort of SOC offerings and things are going to be really useful for MSPs. And one of the reasons for that, which is another topic that came up on almost every conversation that we had on the booth and speaking to other vendors, is SMBs tech spend is going up, which is good for MSPs. SMBs are realizing they need now to spend more money to do that. The problem is, from an MSP point of view and an SMB point of view also, is that labor costs are absolutely going through the roof. I know there's sort of an inflation crisis certainly here in the UK, but wages are even outstripping inflation. So MSPs are struggling to recruit. They're struggling to find, because it's such a competitive market. There's a skill shortage. The wages are going through the roof. And I think this is why vendors like Kaseya and like ConnectWise and like Enable and everyone are trying to work really hard, and Jumpcloud, to try and help you automate these things and to try and do more tech tasks with less tech people. And I think that's something that I think everyone in the industry realizes what we need to do to try and increase automation. So I think automation was probably the buzzword.
So, quick question. I know when the acquisition was first announced, I saw some trepidation around that, because Kaseya has either sidelined or shut down things in the past. And so what was the sense you got around the conference? Because I saw a lot of people a little concerned about Datto and its future based on them getting acquired.
Yeah, absolute fair points. I mean, that Kaseya have made lots of acquisitions. I guess in our space, people like IT Glue, ID Agents, Rapid Fire Tools, they're all kind of under the Kaseya umbrella now. And I think, and I'm not speaking for them, but I think that they would maybe admit mistakes with some of those, certainly around the ID agent, and a lot of it's around contracts. So what Kaseya do is and some companies do this, and some MSPs like this, but they probably prefer to get people onto longer contracts, on 3-year contracts or things, and they kind of did that with ID Agent that was previously on a kind of rolling 12-month contract. And so I think Kaseya listened to that, and even before DattoCon, they announced a few weeks ago that they're going to stop that practice. They're not going to do that going forward, which I think probably does give MSPs a little more confidence to try things, knowing that they're not going to be tied into multi-year contracts. So that's a great example of where I think that Kaseya are kind of listening to the community, because Datto partners, that's one of the things that really concern them, because Datto has always been pretty flexible on contracts, probably 12 months maximum. And so I think there's a lot of feeling that they're going to come in, they're going to put the price up massively, they're going to tie people to 3-year contracts, and they're going to stifle innovation. And I think I'm pretty sure that's what the purpose of Fred's keynote was, is effectively say we're increasing innovation by investing in staff. We're not going to cancel any products, and we're going to increase the support staff, and we're going to do everything, reduce prices, and not do the contract thing. So I think they've been listening to those concerns. I mean, they can't not have seen them, right? If you're in the MSP community on social media around the time of the acquisition, there's a lot of this kind of doom and gloom. My feeling is that after the event this week, I think a lot of MSPs are probably feeling a little bit more comfortable about it. But I think it's a case of wait and see. But I think a lot of people feel a lot better now.
Good, glad to hear that.
Yeah, and I don't think I think I'm trying to think if I spoke to other vendors and other people in the room, and they were feeling the same, because obviously there's always a concern for people like Jumpcloud and the other vendors in the space that people are going to start to maybe restrict their APIs or try and lock the integrations down to only their own products. And again, that's definitely not what they're planning. They're saying they want to keep this open ecosystem. Obviously, they want to integrate their own products as tightly as possible, but they're also aware that MSPs use products around the sides, and that it's up to the MSP what products they use, and whether they want to use BMS with Autotask, or they want to use ConnectWise Manage with Data RMM. They kind of think ultimately it's the MSP's choice to do what they wish.
Good. Well, it sounds like a great deal overall. We heard lots of great things from the rest of the team. We had a pretty good presence there, and our CMO was there as well. And then we had the meetup on Tuesday night. So yeah, I think we're also planning on being at Connect IT. I think we were last year.
We did Connect IT this year in Vegas. That was earlier in the year.
Oh, that was earlier. Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, these events are kind of big events. And I think that to get into the minds of MSPs, you kind of need to be there. One thing I did learn is that MSPs love Lego. A lot of we kind of gave away Lego Nintendo sets, and MSPs were kind of desperate to get their hands on those. So yeah, lesson learned for the future: just make sure we've got plenty of Lego based giveaways, and that seems to bring people to the booth, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I guess especially if it's something kind of geeky like that, like the Nintendo or something.
Yeah,
I saw those sets. Those are pretty cool. So
yeah, there's a lot of interest in that. Absolutely. So yeah, MSPs love Lego. Yeah.
Awesome. Kelly. Yeah, sorry, Kelly, you missed it. We had some fun giveaways. I think it was a scratch off, right?
Yeah,
Or something
that's right.
like that.
It was quite. The marketing team did a brilliant job. In fact, the whole booth was really good. We had a great placement and everything. But yeah, it was a scratch card, and we placed one on every seat. I don't know who had the job of putting them on the seats. Luckily, it wasn't me. But we placed one on every seat, and then basically after the keynotes, they came to the booth and scratched them. One thing we did forget. Well, is no one seems to have any kind of coins anymore to scratch cards with. So people are improvising with fingernails, pens, edge of lanyards, and all kinds of things. So maybe next time we'll take a bag of coins or something with us to make it easier.
Little poker chips or something. That's it. Jumpcloud poker chips have a little Jumpcloud on it, and that's one of the reasons why I carry like a dime or a quarter in my pocket, because I'm always needing to, like a gift card or something. They almost always have a little code you have to scratch off on the back. So I'm finding.
Look, it seems not many people think like you, because literally no one else had one. I think we found a coin one day. I don't know what it was. It was a copper low denomination coin. I don't know which one, but it disappeared. So the lucky coin was gone. So I don't know what happened to that.
We also have a grocery store, Aldi's, and they require you to have a quarter to put it in the cart in order to release it to use it. So you have to put a quarter in, it pops the cart out, and then you can drive it around, and then you get your quarter back when you put it back in the cart corral. So
do the same over here.
Yeah, I have to have a quarter with me when I'm doing that.
And branded guitar picks, I mean, I've got a few. At least one vendor was doing those. So if you're a guitar player, then you would have found someone with a branded guitar pick. I think Datto have done them in the past, and I can't remember who had them. I didn't know how niche they were, because I don't know how many people play the guitar. Maybe more in the States than the UK. I don't know.
I think sometimes people just like collecting stuff like that too. I mean, I've got a couple that I don't really play guitar. I have friends who do, but they're just kind of fun to have anyway. Jeff, we'll work on making you love us more. We'll work on that. We really will. We'll try.
That's like Michael's idea. Yeah, the 3D print fake coin.
Absolutely.
They're all super creative.
We'll make note of those, because we could have some fun, like community or IT hour giveaways to go along with that. Make them collectibles. Even pins. Some places will just give away a pin that you put on your ID, your badge. Mm-hmm. Yeah, your badge lanyard. And I mean, you could use the side of a little pin as well to scratch off.
Yeah. No, but apart from that minor detail, that the scratch card was a huge success, and no one was doing anything like it. So I think it made us stand out a bit. It was really cool.
It's awesome. Now at the next one, we'll see everybody doing that, because they'll be like, "Oh, that was so popular. Let's do it." So we'll have to.
Everyone was doing socks. I mean, there were literally socks everywhere. So I think if I were an MSP going to an event now, I wouldn't pack any socks. There's definitely no need to pack socks. So.
Well, not to say that we started that trend too, but we gave away socks a while ago.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Socks have been at conferences for, I mean, the last 2 or 3 years. They still are popular. I have a friend who collects them at every single conference. They go around and bring home these really colorful, fun socks. Adam loves socks. I know Steven does too. He's very proud of his Jumpcloud socks.
Yes. Well, I guess vendors love them as well, right? Because they're one size. That's the main difference. I mean, it used to be t-shirts, but then you've got lots of different sizes of t-shirts. You've always got the wrong size. So socks seems like the easy option.
Yeah, you can just take a bunch and they're all the same. T-shirts, you have to have a bunch of different types.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to hop over to the news. I do have a few things I want to make sure that we talk about. We don't talk about all of them, but some of them are fun. We've got about 10 minutes. We might go a little bit over, but y'all don't have to stay for it, but we got some fun things. If you haven't heard, Apple did release the first public beta of iOS 16.1. That was yesterday. I guess on Wednesday they opened it up to developers, and then on Thursday they opened it up to the public. It should introduce live activities, which is an interactive notification feature, so you can keep an eye on things happening in real time. Clean energy charging in the US that will cause the iPhone to selectively charge at times when lower carbon emission electricity is available. And some other new features include a deletable wallet app, changes to the lock screen, customized interface, and lots of other things that you can find out on Mac Rumors. And I will put that in the show notes. But more importantly, if you have iOS 15 and you have not updated to 15.7 on your phone or on the iPad, please do so if you are unable to upgrade to 16, because there is a kernel vulnerability. Actually, there are multiple, and it can allow your phone to be taken over. It has been actively exploited, and my oldest child texted me earlier in the week, I think on Monday when it came out, and said, OMG, you need to update your phone right now. Someone could take it over with a kernel vulnerability. Hurry up, you need to do it now. And was just an absolute panic over it. So it was so cute. Don't tell them I said that. They don't watch the show, so they won't know that I mentioned this. But apparently it is a pretty big deal. It has been exploited. Update your phones and iPads ASAP if you're not updating to 16 already. So go do that, please. And then, were you getting ready to say something? I thought, Alexa, you were getting ready to say something, so I wanted to pause. No, that's
Sorry.
okay.
No.
Google tried to push back on the EU antitrust ruling, and they failed. The EU General Court decided Wednesday to largely uphold the ruling of the European Commission that fined Google 4 billion euros for antitrust violations. That's 3.9 billion US for the rest of us. And it could have wide-ranging implications for other tech companies. So going all the way back to 2018, the EU's competition chief, Margaret Vestager, issued a ruling that Google used its Android mobile operating system to undermine competitors. So what's interesting about this is it dealt with 3 types of agreements that involve Google's mobile application distribution agreements, anti-fragmentation agreements, and revenue sharing agreements. So there was a bunch of things they were doing about requiring smartphone manufacturers to pre-install Google Search and browsers to carry the Play Store. They forced smartphone makers not to run alternative versions of Android. And mobile operators and smartphone manufacturers earned revenue if they agreed not to pre-install competing search engines to Google's, and those are called exclusivity rebates. So they found that all of these were anti-competitive. They struck down that last piece. So the final fine, instead of 4.34 billion, was down to 4.125 billion. They're appealing, blah, blah, blah. But where this is interesting is it applies to the wide-ranging implications of the EU's Digital Markets Act, because this could affect, other companies that are in Europe as well. So the Digital Markets Act enables a range of antitrust action while also addressing issues of interoperability. These include the right to uninstall software on devices, greater personal data access controls, enhanced advertising transparency, and end vendors self-preferencing their own services and stopping certain restrictive App Store requirements for developers. So not only does this affect Google, it affects potentially Microsoft and Apple and others like that, because, once Europe starts making these sorts of laws, then eventually it kind of trickles down into other areas as well. So I just found this really interesting that Google's trying to push back on this and Europe's saying, nope, not going to happen. And I love that they try to protect their users a lot more. And I wish the US would follow suit sooner, more rapidly than than we do here. Oh, did I? Oh, okay, Kelly. 4 billion. 4 billion. Is that better? Oh, so Chris, you feel like you're being conned because Aldi needs a dollar coin, huh? Or a pound coin?
Yeah, a pound
Ooh.
coin. Although I have got one of the fake plastic ones in case I lose them, which you can buy on eBay for next to nothing.
Yeah, apparently somebody said earlier that you could use a certain washer too. You could always get a certain size. So I used to a very long time ago, work for a certain newspaper in California, a very large newspaper that distributed in LA and in San Diego. And we used to service the stands that where you could buy stuff, and we always had slugs that were equivalent to a quarter that we would use to open the coin operated machines. And so I had a ton of those, and those worked quite well for all kinds of things that were quarter equivalent. I didn't use them in Coke machines or anything like that, but they were great for when you needed to pop something open like that. So back to the news. I've just got a couple more. Back up to so this is more designer related, but acquisitions are always interesting. So I don't know if you heard this. I don't know if you know what Figma is. So Figma is a tool for designers, for web designers. If you have had any interactions with your designers where they're mocking up something, they might have sent you a Figma to look at something. And Adobe is acquiring Figma for $20 billion, Kelly, $20 billion. And basically they're taking out their competition and acquiring them. And it's just, wow. So Figma was actually valued at $10 billion in its last funding round last year. And but it's developed such a dedicated following among developers. They've got a rich range of collaboration options. So Adobe just decided to gobble them up. So they did. But apparently they're going to continue to operate independently until the deal closes. So I thought that was really interesting, some of these acquisitions that come along. Anyway, couple more. Okay, one really, really quick one. Microsoft Teams has been storing authentication tokens in plain text. And they say that it's not important enough to address right away. I'm going to do one of those memes. Really? Really, Microsoft? It stores authentication tokens in unencrypted plain text mode, allowing attackers to potentially control communications within an organization, according to the security firm Vectra. Now, Microsoft's reaction to that was limited to the desktop app. So therefore, they don't think it meets the bar for immediate servicing because it requires an attacker to first gain access to a target network. However, a threat hunter said it could provide a secondary means for lateral movement in the event of a network breach. So proceed with caution if you use Microsoft Teams. Okay, now this is only tangentially related, but this is more of an awareness when it comes to security. And it's kind of scary. The U.S. Border Patrol can seize your phone data if you're an American and store it for up to 15 years. So if you are searched at an airport or at the border, Border Patrol could look at it, decide there's something suspicious, add it to, look at it further, add the data from the device to a database that can be accessed by thousands of government officials, and then keep it for up to 15 years. I found this on Engadget via Hacker News. So Senator Ron Wyden wrote to CBP Commissioner Chris Magnus and stated that CBP needs to update their practices so that these device searches at the borders are only focused on criminals and security threats instead of, quote, allowing indiscriminate rifling through Americans' private records without suspicion of a crime. Now, from what I understand, you can refuse to unlock your phone and stuff, but it gets murky around whether or not they can make you do it. So, just be aware that don't just open your phone willy-nilly if they say, "Hey, we want to look at your stuff." Like, know your rights and, maybe not just let them, if they just say, "Hey, we want to look at it," say, "No." And then you might get detained and they might seize your phone, and then it gets a little more complicated. But hey, just be careful out there, because 15 years is a lot of time for them to store all your stuff. I'm not a lawyer. This isn't legal advice. Blah, blah, blah. Just be careful. All right, and the last one is a fun one. I know we're getting time, but this was cool. All right, so have you ever tracked planes? Flight Radar 24 said that 6 million people tried to track the plane carrying Queen Elizabeth's coffin the moment it came online, and it actually crashed the site when it was flown from Edinburgh to London. And the flight lasted 1 hour and 12 minutes. Within the first minute of the transponder activating, 6 million people attempted to track the flight, and it put a strain on their site, and it killed it for a little bit. I just thought that was really hilarious that people wanted to track the plane, and decided to do that, and then it crashed the site. I've also read that, Chris, tell me, I guess people in the UK really like to queue, huh? They love queues?
It's pretty much our national obsession. Yes,
Yes,
it's queuing. We love queuing.
And apparently, I guess everyone's
the longer the
queuing.
better. Yeah.
I'm hearing that everyone is queuing up to walk by and look at the, I guess, look at the casket or whatever it is that however they have like the procession. And they've had some trouble with figuring out where the end of the queue line is. And
I think I read it was 5 miles long.
Well, there was I read another article about some problem with some sort of software that was trying to tell people where the end of the queue was. And it messed up and was telling them that the end of the queue line was in Charlotte, in North Carolina, and somewhere else. And there was a little bit of trouble with with that working out. But I find it fascinating that.
Yeah, well, it is funny because David Beckham apparently queued 12 hours overnight to get to it, and in the queue, and they've now ended the queue because the queue was too long, because they didn't think there'd be enough time. But now, in typical British style, there's now a queue to get into the queue when it's reopened. I think that's kind of people are thinking, well, the queue's not open, so we'll get into a queue, and then when the queue's open, we'll join the other queue. So yeah, it's just probably the most British thing ever. But
now here, when people do that, they like camp out and stuff. But if what I read said, like for this queue, you can't take a chair, you can't like camp out or anything, because I don't know. I mean,
well, it's
I guess,
continually moving, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing. It is continually moving. So yeah, I mean, there are some things. So people will be camping out, no doubt, over the weekend for the funeral procession on Monday. But yeah, in this situation, you've kind of got to keep moving. But
that would be exhausting for, I guess they said as long as the queue is now, that it would be walking for like a couple of days.
Wow.
I think they've capped it. They've reduced it. I think the idea is it shouldn't go above 7 hours, but I think it went to sort of over 12 hours. So I think they said, well, they don't want more people joining. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. All right. Well, we've gone over. Thank you for those of you who did stay a couple of minutes to let us finish the news. Yeah, you're right, Kelly. Long line, but dang. Brett, to answer your question about the Border Patrol, is kind of a little bit outside of the search and seizure thing. It's kind of a weird thing from the article I was reading, which I will post a link to Engadget in the show notes as well. Thank you all for joining us. Have a wonderful weekend. Yeah, Disneyland Fast Pass. I love that, but unfortunately, no Fast Pass in the queue there. I'm just gonna keep saying queue because I love it. It's
I
great
was
word.
impressed. It's very impressive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Queuing in the queue. So take care, y'all. Chris, thank you for joining us. Have a great weekend. I hope the weather is wonderful for everyone, and we will see you. Well, actually, Tom will see you all next week, and we will talk about Password Manager. So see you next time.
See you later. Bye.
Bye all.
Bye.